of following God's command of honor and respect for one's father, and the responsibilities of obedience to legitimate authority. This particular commandment is thus an introduction to the love of neighbor and respect that we have for one another as human persons. And it fits perfectly with the first three commandments, because in our parents we're supposed to see a secondary principle of our existence. God is our Father who created us, who brought us into existence and holds us in being, and yet our parents cooperated. Mom and dad cooperated, and they have, Paul says in Ephesians, this from God, ability to cooperate in bringing forth new life. And so they are a secondary cause, if you will, of my coming into being. And so because of that, I owe my mother and father honor and respect. And of course, while I'm a child, until I am out from under their roof, reach the age of emancipation, then I have the responsibility of obedience to legitimate commands, things that I'm told to do by my parents. The fourth commandment speaks about this reward. And here the context in the delineation of the Ten Commandments speaks about the land that I will give you. The land, of course, in the Old Testament, speaking about the promised land coming out of Egypt. This is Mount Sinai's covenant, and the Ten Commandments are our responsibilities in that covenant for the great deeds that God has done for us. And leading the people into the land of milk and honey, and that's the land of Canaan and across the Jordan, which Joshua leads his people into. And that God would, if we obey our parents and we are obedient and to the legitimate authorities, and we're respectful and we have that goodwill to others, then we will reap the fruits, both natural and supernatural. Of course, the promised land is a prefigurement of really the ultimate promised land of heaven, of eternity, and are sharing it already by baptism. And so family, we have the natural institution of family, but the supernatural institution is the family elevated by grace in the sacrament of marriage, and then the responsibility of mom and dad to raise their children according to their Catholic faith, and to make sure not only for their physical upbeing and their material responsibilities and education, but also for their spiritual good and moral good of the children that are entrusted to their care, that they participate in bringing into this world. And so the natural fruits of that would be peace and harmony. That if we are respectful and honor, if we respect the dignity of our parents, mother and father, children to their parents and parents to their children, if we have this harmony of right order and authority, which is the very foundation of society, then society will be harmonious and peaceful. Why? Because the citizens of society are members of the human family. And they're members first of their individual biological family, and these virtues of obedience and respect and freedom and joy and honesty and integrity and the virtues which are cultivated in family life then come with the person as they make up the very fabric of society. So if the family life is in good order by living the fourth commandment, then society, it follows, would be in good order, because society is this gathering of the smallest cells of itself, which are the human families together in society. So children are learning how to be good citizens by first and foremost being good children, good daughter, a good son of their parents. And so these values are cultivated in family life. And so there's these natural goods of peace and harmony by being respectful and learning obedience. And of course, disobedience, disrespect, dishonor, of course, breeds a whole bunch of dysfunction with the family, and of course, wreaks havoc in society. And we know what that's like by watching the news and dealing with the struggles that we have today in society, which are really ultimately originates in the family life, and the lack of obedience, the lack of respect, the lack of observing the fourth commandment. The Catechism of the Catholic Church in Numbers 2197 and following speak about rights and duties. And whenever we have rights, there's a corresponding duty. And because we have a right to life, for example, I also have a duty not to kill the other. And we'll speak about that in the next commandment, thou shalt not kill. But with regard to family life, we'll have rights of children and duties. Duties of children and the rights of the parents, as well as the duties of the parents. And this will also apply to the state as well. So next time what we'll do is we'll look at some of these rights and duties particularly, first of all, of children to their parents, because that's most universal. We all have parents, and we come out of the womb under obedience to parents and our respect and honor toward them. Then we'll look at the duties of parents to children, and that'll be next time on what it means to be Catholic.
Thank you, Father Champagne. Coming up next, in a conversation with Bishop Michael Jarrell, Monsignor Richard Green interviews Bishop Jarrell about embryo research.
In the Gospel, the Lord tells us, "Blessed are the merciful, mercy shall be theirs." I'm Bishop Michael Jarrell. I'm so humbled by the generosity of thousands who give to the Bishop's Services Appeal each year. The mercy you show ensures that the most vulnerable among us can be served when we do the work the Lord enjoins us to do in His name. I thank you for your support. Mercy shall be yours. The Lord promises it.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us for another conversation with the Bishop of Lafayette, Bishop Michael Jarrell. Bishop, good to see you.
Thank you. Good to be here.
October is Respect Life Month for Catholics. We think that the pro-life message is an important one in our country and in our world today, since there are so many ways in which human life is being destroyed and disrespected. In previous weeks, we've discussed the death penalty and in vitro fertilization. Bishop, obviously there are more issues. What will we address today?
Well, first, let me refer to a series of 8 brochures in the Respect Life packets, which are sent to every Catholic church during the month of October. The contents, by the way, are available online at www.usccb.org/pro-life, and just click on Respect Life program, and you have those little pamphlets available. And one of these pamphlets treats embryo research, which is medical research involving the destruction of human embryos. Mm-hmm. So that's what we'll talk about today.
Okay, Bishop, I know the medical community has ethical standards concerning research. What's your comment?
Yeah, I think these concerns go back at least to the time in Nazi Germany, where a lot of immoral experimentation was performed on human subjects, very often prisoners in concentration camps. And these experiments were destructive and harmful to the persons, but the doctors reasoned, well, these people are going to die anyway, so we can go ahead and use them for science. In 1948, shortly after the end of the Second World War, the World Medical Association approved the Declaration of Geneva. And they were very concerned with medical research. And they wrote this as an ethical directive for doctors: "I will maintain the utmost respect of human life from the time of conception. Even under threat, I will not use my medical knowledge contrary to the laws of humanity." So a very high standard. However, sometime after that, the part of respecting human life from the time of conception was removed. And as abortion became acceptable, they had to change that. And so somebody along the way changed it.
Now, well, Bishop, are there standards for medical research on human subjects? Well,
yes, there still are standards. For example, the experiment should not cause unnecessary risk to the subject. The experimenter should have the informed consent of the subject. And the experiment should not cause serious injury or death. However, these very fine principles are not applied to human embryos, but they should be. Now, obviously not the one about securing consent, but the others about harming the subject are simply ignored when it comes to research on embryos.
Well, Bishop, how did this come about?
Well, I think it came about because abortion became acceptable. And once we do that, well then the other things flow from it. Once accepted that an embryo or a fetus can be disposed of, then other practices become acceptable. I referred a minute ago to that website on which these pamphlets are available, and on one of them there's a very striking picture that I thought really puts in a picture all of the words that we're using about respect for life. And it's the young child, 5 years old or so, has on a t-shirt that says former embryo. Mm-hmm. A very powerful reminder to that's the way that all of us started. Yeah. And that we cannot look upon this as an object. It is human life.
Mm-hmm. So Bishop, you referred to other practices which become acceptable. What would be some of them?
Well, practices like in vitro fertilization or like embryonic stem cell research. The stem cells are extracted from human embryos, which causes the death of the human embryo. So one thing leads to another, and it's, as we were saying earlier, it's a disrespect for human life in the form of embryos.
But doesn't stem cell research hold great promise for cures of all kinds?
Well, some believe it does, and it may very well hold promise in the future, but there's very little that has come as of yet on stem cells that come from embryos. They're difficult to control, they cause tumors, and also there's the issue of tissue rejection. So there's some great problems there. However, when we use adult stem cells, there's a lot of research on those, and they are not taken from embryos, but from other sources. And right now they have applications in about 75 different ways in health procedures. And there are no moral objections to the use of adult stem cells. But again, when we're talking about destroying embryos, it may lead to good medical applications. But again, the good end, the good intention, does not justify immoral means.
Mm-hmm. Well, Bishop, what is public opinion on this issue?
Public opinion is mixed, as we might expect. However, since 1995, Congress has banned federal funds for research in which human embryos are destroyed. It's a provision that has to be renewed each year, but Congress has renewed it each year since 1995. Privately funded research on embryos does continue. And I think it is important for us in the church to continue our pro-life message. I think the church is most effective in helping people to understand the issues and helping them to understand the facts. So we continue to speak about the pro-life message, the moral issues involved, and to continue this education part, I think, is the work of the church.
Well, thank you very much, Bishop. So continue to pray for respect for life in our country and the world. We'll see you next week for another issue related to this topic.
Thank you, Bishop Gerald and Monsignor Green. Bishop Gerald is always eager to share the Catholic faith with everyone. We hope this program has allowed you to go closer to God and the Catholic faith. Join us next week for another conversation with Bishop Michael Gerald for What It Means to Be Catholic with Father Michael Champagne, and Trista Littell as an interview with Faye Drobnik about the upcoming changes in the new Roman Missal. We hope you've enjoyed our program because it is produced for you. So please join us next week on this station as we tell the people about the Diocese of Lafayette and the good news of our Catholic faith.